we just finished watching 2006's Pan's Labyrinth, a film that you and I actually saw in the big screen movie theater when it first came out. And probably the way to watch it. Yeah. This is a movie that's just steeped in just so much detail and beauty. The violence is horribly graphic. The monsters in the real world and the fantastical world are very scary. And yet there's this undercurrent of beauty and loss, but hope and redemption. The film follows Ophelia, who comes to the country with her mother to be with her stepfather, the pretty much loathsome...
Her so-called father.
Her so-called father, her actual stepfather, who's the loathsome Captain Vidal. Impressions. Gee, this was your pick. What did you think?
I've always liked this movie, ever since I read the book.
What did you like about the book?
I have to be honest, I like the book better than the movie because the book, it told like all of their emotions.
Okay. Books are usually more detailed. They have that luxury of being able to build worlds more thoroughly than a movie would.
In the book, what was it? It was told through the girl's point of view? Or it was just like an omniscient, godlike narrator? Okay. And
interesting. I thought it would be told by Pan's view.
No.
Oh, really? Okay. And you felt like you realized, or you were more like strongly connected to the characters because you felt their feelings were better described in the book than you saw on the screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they're probably more fleshed out in the book too, right?
Yeah, probably.
You probably get more of a backstory about Ophelia, maybe even.
Yeah, and they even like tell stories like about the Pale Man, like how he became that, about her dad. Yeah, it was really.
Was like when they were describing the Pale Man in the book. If you noticed in the movie, there were all those like murals all around. Was it like that? Or was there more to it? Like in the murals,
there was more to it, like when he was human.
Oh, they go really that far back. Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Maybe you and I should pick up that book.
Yeah, maybe.
It's at the library.
That's where we got
that's
it
right.
from.
You got it from the library. Okay.
I'm glad you read it before you saw the movie. It still doesn't take away from it being a fantastic movie, though, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, Del Toro always makes just really pretty things. I mean, he's one of my favorite
and he's an awesome storyteller. Yeah. I mean, it's not just that it looks good. It's the stories are tight. And I feel it's even more so when he's sort of like reined in as far as budget goes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when it's just like, here's all the money in the world, he'll go a little bit off. Like with
Hellboy 2.
Yes, Hellboy 2.
Jesus.
But Olive, what did you think? When you weren't covering your face with a pillow?
Some of the scenes were pretty intense.
Some of the scenes were pretty intense, yeah. Well, what do you think of the movie?
I thought it was good.
Did you have a favorite part?
Really intense.
Really intense, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Was there any scenes that were like, you were just like, oh my god, I can't take it?
Yeah, some were.
Which ones?
Like, with that guy.
Olivia, you were covering your eyes in the scenes that weren't disturbing.
It's not really a kids movie. It's very dark. There is a ton of, well, not a ton, but there is some pretty graphic violence in this movie.
I know, but like after or before violence, Olivia, well, not before, but like after.
Let's not be harsh on her.
But
she's 8, and this is not a movie for an
8-year-old. Yeah,
this is like a level up from what she's used to.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest. I don't think. I mean, my personal history aside, I wouldn't even consider this a movie for 12-year-olds. To be fair,
I saw worse when I was.
I did too, but I mean,
you guys were watching like sexual movies
in this day and age. I don't think 12. I don't even think this would be geared toward 12-year-olds, to be honest.
Oh, this film is not geared towards. Yeah. No. This is geared towards adults. This is not a kids movie.
It's not a kids movie in the slightest. Yeah.
With parental guidance, I would have no problem Obviously. I just showed it to my kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is a great movie.
Yes, agreed. Did you have a favorite part in this?
I think the thing I like most about the film is the way that it blended reality with fairy tale. Like, and also it left you questioning, was this really going on?
Yeah.
What was reality in this movie?
I think it was real.
And that's the thing, it's totally believable that what happened was real. And you could point out the evidence that yes, there's no way to explain how Ophelia got to the center of the labyrinth in the end, and things like that, and how she escaped.
Stone thing with her and the baby was really her.
Yeah, and how she escaped her room and whatnot. So yeah, I really, really loved that, and I also just loved
Del Toro's world building.
The world building, but also how Ophelia, she loved stories.
Yes.
And she would tell the stories to her unborn baby brother. And the way the film was sort of like bookended by that narration telling the story of the lost princess, and that Ophelia was the lost princess. And it was, to me, that was just like seriously beautiful storytelling. And I mean, it's like touching. It's something that it really, like, the movie really mirrored Ophelia's innocence in that, because you think little fairy tales and fables and things like that are something for children, and sometimes they could be dark and scary, but there's always the happy ending. And to me, that's just beautiful.
A lot of the time, there is not the happy ending.
Well, I'm talking about like the ones that do. The reason why you never really hear about the sausage and
The bird and the mouse.
the bird and the mouse is because that is just a free for all of violence that just ends in pain and torment for everybody. It's not a happy ending.
To be honest, the mouse was a fool to put itself in the oven or the pot.
I mean, let's be honest. A lot of Grimm's fairy tales are just, I don't know what the point of the story is other than to make you laugh at others' misfortune.
Like the rejuvenated little old man.
Any of them, really. But I'm talking about the classic types of fairy tales where it's like a quest and something, a reward is gained or something
like
is
Hansel
lost.
and Gretel?
Even Hansel and Gretel. I mean, not my favorite, but whatever. But to me, and the thing that I like is that these are like, it's a story you've never heard, but it follows those basic tropes of a quest, a mystery, something that like a child would fall in love with and may inspire a child to be creative themselves. When you think of these types of stories, do they excite your imagination? Do they make you want to create your own things?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the mark of a good story, if it inspires you. So I hope that these stories do, because when I was a kid, that's what they did to me. I wanted to make my own little comic books and my own little tales of my own little characters.
I've only made 2 Grimm's fairy tale stories,
hey,
and that's it.
You're only 12, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
He could sell them and become an author.
Yeah, you never know.
Fingers crossed. I'm ready to ride somebody's coattails.
I'm ready to retire.
This is my favorite Del Toro movie. This was the best film of 2006. The imagery in the movie is breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. The scene where she's in the tree, going into the tree during the first, I guess, task that's been assigned her.
Yeah, like when she actually enters the tree and the lights behind her.
It's just beautiful.
Even
So
though
much.
there's so much bugs and mud and disgustingness.
The
It's
bugs
gross.
haven't shown up yet. It was
just
we're
the her
talking about when
coming
she
into
first
the
walks
tree.
in, and the way she's sort of standing there, lit from behind with like those little sort of
Looks
like wisps in the air.
Yeah, little like
That's
lights.
that
is beautiful.
That's like a painting.
I was just gonna say,
gorgeous.
some of the scenes in this are just breathtakingly beautiful. Like even the ending where she goes to her kingdom. Just all of it is just so lovely and dreamlike and beautiful, and such a contrast to the world of 1940 Spain in the real world, right?
Yeah.
So there's definitely that juxtaposition, right, where you see the awfulness in real human life. This
The
merciless
monsters in the real world, Captain Vidal.
Yeah. and
horrible man.
Horrible human being, if you could even call him that. Just a monster, yeah.
And
Although the end was so gratifying.
Yeah.
The end was so gratifying when Mercedes tells him that line. To me, I remember, like, when we saw it, and this is Sans Children, right? This is Life Before Children, which came out in 2006. So it hits differently now as a parent, this movie. But even in 2006, still just being horribly upset with the inhumanity of Vidal. And
Vidal is a monster.
He is a monster.
Very
and then
hateable.
that final scene or towards the end where Mercedes is like, this child isn't even going to know who are. Yeah. That to me, so gratifying.
And it was, and especially
on his face.
Yeah, and like
because he's going to go down as nothing.
Yeah, and he was like so regimented and meticulous, and Del Toro did a great job with that. He's always cleaning that watch with like a Q-tip.
Yeah,
and
very fastidious.
When he's shaving, everything's very fine.
Yeah.
Everything's very exact in his uniform. Everything is, all the stars are neatly placed on his uniform.
Right.
He
runs a tight ship.
He runs like the tightest ship, and he's like completely emotionless.
Yes.
The only emotion he has is sort of like this stern, anger.
I also picked up, and I could be.
I think he had approval for his son.
I don't know about that, but
to me, his son was basically a trophy.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was just like, this is mine.
This is my legacy.
This is my legacy. He will carry on my name and the name of my father.
Right. But to me, and I could be wrong, I always had this like feeling that there was like this undercurrent of him kind of liking Mercedes, but not really acting on it. It was almost like he gave her chances.
I don't think he liked her. I think he wanted to control her. I think he basically viewed her as his property.
That makes sense, and definitely ties in with that character.
Because he wasn't going to like do anything to her, had her in that barn. He was just going to torture her.
Oh sure, no. At that point, no, because he knew that she was part of the resistance, right? But I mean, prior to that.
There were moments where you could see he was basically sort of like exerting or letting her know that he is the one
that controls.
That is basically in control and basically her owner. Like when he puts his hand on her shoulder, and it's just sort of like it's off-putting, and you could see that she's very uncomfortable with that as well. Right. Yeah, he was just a horrible human being.
Yes, absolutely reprehensible. Yeah, that he had no redemption. I'm going to say again, my favorite Del Toro movie, and a perfect 10. I've always loved this movie. I loved it from the first time I saw it in the cinema. I've loved it each subsequent time. I always find something new and interesting in it. Again, Del Toro is one of my favorite directors. He has such enthusiasm for the art of cinema, and he himself is such a great storyteller, and I think that comes in part because of his love of the medium. And he doesn't skimp, and he doesn't do things kind of in halves. He's all in. Every time I see a Del Toro movie, whether it's his first movie or his last movie, that's always the impression that I get from him. And I love watching interviews with him because he is like an excited child on Christmas morning. Like, the enthusiasm that he has for the medium itself is so refreshing. This is a man that
for his
that
chosen
dreads
genre.
Yeah, he loves horror, fantasy,
horror, monsters, unapologetically. He's never the type of guy who's just like, I think I've outgrown this, and now it's time for me to make a period piece about the East India Trading Company and cholera or something like that.
At the turn of the 1900s. Yeah, and that's another thing. He just unapologetically loves his monsters and his fantasy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I tell my kids all the time, find the thing that you love to do, and then it's never worked. This is a man that I don't think ever regrets getting up in the morning to do the thing that he loves to do. I mean, we just saw an interview with him from this year's virtual Comic-Con, and I was kind of jealous. He mentioned seeing 3 films a day. I was like, God damn, I wish I had the time to watch 3 films a day. I love watching movies. I love discussing movies. And it's always such a pleasure to watch a filmmaker who excels at the craft and is also such a great storyteller. Because sometimes you can get one or the other. But when you get both, that's just a win-win all around, right? Again, he's got such an interesting body of work. I mean, there are some duds in there, let's be fair, right? There are some duds there. But on the whole, he is a master world builder. He is a master storyteller. And you feel that love in every frame and in every monster, in every stitch on the creature in the shape of water, in every movement that Doug Jones makes as this.
Yeah, God bless
crazy,
Doug Jones.
God bless
him for being skinny and putting that tons of prosthetics on his body.
Yeah.
That is amazing. He portrays 2 creatures in this film that are brilliant.
Yeah.
Just the design,
the detail,
everything
My
about
God.
them.
Yeah.
The fawn and the pale man.
Yeah.
So
both
good.
so well done. Just the details on everything is just. Yeah, I mean, we could wax poetics about Del Toro all night long. I mean, we went to see Crimson Peak, didn't we?
Yeah.
And just again,
That's
another
gorgeous
movie that just, I mean, I'm sure it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it was just so beautiful, and the story was so interesting. And the detail work on that was also
that house was amazing.
That house was out of this world. Out of this world. Jessica Chastain was so good in that. Everybody was good in that, but she in particular held my attention. I was just like, God damn, where is your Oscar?
Fantastic.
Yeah, she's consistently good. Shape of Water.
Shape of Water was so good.
My God, talk about breaking your heart, right? I mean, even the first Hellboy, Kronos, Devil's Backbone. I mean, all these movies. He is such an integral part of cinematic history and just the art of storytelling. I mean, you can have all the effects in the world. I mean, look at Michael Bay movies. But if you don't have a good story, you have nothing. You just have...
Yeah, those Transformers movies.
It's terrible. Terrible. They're completely unwatchable and forgettable. Seriously. And all the effects in the world don't make it any better. None of it.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
I feel like there's so many parts that go into making a movie. There's art direction, there's script writing, there's editing, there's cinematography. And it's one of those things where if it all comes together, you can have an amazing piece of storytelling. But at the crux, at the heart of everything, I feel, is the storyteller, right? The screenwriter. Again, you could spend all the money in the world, and if you don't have a good story to tell, you really have nothing.
No.
And I feel like even in Del Toro's lesser movies, there's still that kernel of good storytelling. Sometimes it pans out and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, we've had this conversation in the past about the first Hellboy was such a great movie, such a great adaptation of a graphic novel, and then Hellboy 2 was beautiful, but
gorgeous.
It was beautiful, but it just
that's basically what I was saying. I think it just got lost in the money.
It really did. It
was
really,
just
really
here,
did.
indulge yourself, indulge every whim you might possibly have. I think it got in the way of the story, and
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I mean, the crux of the story was interesting, but it just didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't get to where it
we're
needed
on
to go.
tangent again.
We're on tangents again. Sorry,
I
mean, again, we could talk about Del Toro all night long. I've said this before, I'll say it again, America, I will never forgive you for making Grown Ups the #1 movie when Pacific Rim came out. I still don't understand it. And I've watched that movie repeatedly. America, how do you not like robots versus monsters?
Apparently not enough farting. Okay.
Alright, G, scale of 1 to 10.
9.9.
9.9. I gave it a 10.
That graphic
Ology.
violence took it down a notch.
Yeah, but it was integral to the story. You really needed to paint the picture of what just a gross monster the doll was.
It was,
8.
but
8. Interesting. Did you have a
God.
favorite character in this movie?
I just like the main character.
You liked Ophelia?
I like Mercedes.
I liked Mercedes too. She was one of my favorite characters. And it was interesting because there was a scene where she kind of, when she's talking to, I think, her brother, where she says something to the effect of like, I'm a coward. But she wound up being one of the most strongest people in that story. I mean, it was fight or flight, right? And
I actually brought that up.
Yeah,
But not in that moment. When
Right.
Ophelia was like just standing there watching that thing.
Yeah.
She's the one character who stood up to Vidal.
Yeah, and lived to tell
And lived
about
to
it.
tell about it. Yeah.
My heart was broken when the doctor got it because you could tell that he was a
good
decent man.
Yeah.
He put that kid out of his misery, and I
Because
was happy
there
to
was
see
nothing.
Vidal get his. I wish he had suffered more.
Well, I think he suffered enough at the end when he realized his kid was going to know nothing about him.
That is yeah.
You could see like the fear on his face, like that was nothing.
That rocked him to the core right before he got it.
Yeah.
Like that more than the bullet.
Yeah,
did
I
him.
agree because I think he was so assured in his own.
Yeah, he basically
had no idea that these lesser people were
he
gonna
had
get the
this
better of
vision.
him.
He had this vision of how the world worked, and it was just taken from him.
Yeah.
It was ripped from him.
Yeah.
Like Hitler?
Kind of.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean,
this is Franco's Spain.
who knows what was going through Hitler's mind aside from a bullet at the end?
Yeah. True words are never spoken. But yeah, did I ask you about a favorite character or anything?
I mean, my favorite was Ophelia.
Ophelia was
I
great.
loved following the story through her eyes.
I loved Ophelia too, but I like Mercedes better because she went straight into action while Ophelia just stood there.
Well, she's also an adult. She had
True.
also
She
an
had
adult.
And
benefit of
Mercedes
experience.
wasn't looking at some disgusting creature chomping the heads off of.
I'm sure as brave as she was against Captain Vidal, anybody that went against that pale creature,
The Pale Man.
probably would have crapped their pants. Let's
Yeah.
be honest.
You
If
gotta-
I saw that coming at me, I would have 10 heart attacks on the spot, guaranteed.
Yeah.
I'd also give this 9.9, not because I'm taking really any reason, but I just don't give 10s. No such thing as an
Terrible.
absolutely perfect.
This was the highest thing you've ever given.
I think so, yeah. I think 9.9 is the most you've ever given.
I think it is, yeah. I think I gave Inside Out 9.7.
Something or not, yeah. I don't know. But
I love the hell out of this movie. It's such a good story, and like I said, the whole what is reality aspect of it. I love
That,
I
yeah.
love when I'm left
Wondering.
Like Inception?
Yeah, Inception. Yeah, but I honestly don't know why people found Inception confusing. It made perfect sense to me.
Yeah,
Straight from the
I didn't even watch the movie and it makes sense.
I find it amusing that people find that film confusing.
You didn't know at the end if he was in a dream or not.
No one does.
And you're not. Who cares? It's
make your own conclusions.
It's make your own conclusion. I love that. I love when they leave you trying to figure out.
Well, I've heard it's interesting. Well, again, tangent, but the reviews for Tenet are pretty.
Okay, it's
All right, never mind.
it's like a
it's
few seconds
midnight.
to Friday to
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
All right,
Sorry.
so we're gonna say good night.
Get
Good night.
confused
Good
with
night.
Tupac.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.